Very good evening. Jai Shri Krishna Guru. Thank you for joining the Bhagavad Gita Satsang, the way of life as described by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Today we'll be beginning a new chapter, that is chapter 6, the Yoga of Self-Control. And we will be learning about Karma Yoga or the Yoga of Disinterested Action as described by Lord Shri Krishna, which also teaches us the marks of one who has attained yoga, which is union with the Divine Lord. So let us begin this beautiful chapter. Chapter 6, verse 1. Shri Bhagavan said, "He who does his duty without expecting the fruit of actions is a sannyasi, that is Sankhya Yogi, and a yogi, that is Karma Yogi, both. He is no sannyasi, that is renouncer, who has merely renounced the sacred fire. Even so, he is no yogi who has merely given up all activity." Lord Shri Krishna is teaching us something very, very profound. Let us learn what is he telling us in detail. Shri Bhagavan said, "He who does his duty without expecting the fruit of actions is a sannyasi, that is Sankhya Yogi, and a yogi, Karma Yogi, both." Now what does that mean? See, in the last 3 chapters, that is chapter 2, 3, 4, rather 4 chapters, 4 and 5. The one important lesson which Lord Shri Krishna has been imparting to Arjuna is that no matter whatever action that you perform, you have to perform a selfless action, which is Nishkama Karma. Now, Lord Shri Krishna has imparted the knowledge. The chapter 2 is all about Sankhya Yoga. And through the knowledge, you have to apply it in your in the world. Forget about the material world or spiritual world. It's all world rather. You use that knowledge to live the way of life as described by Lord Shri Krishna alone. So what is he teaching? First is he's giving you the knowledge. Second, he's telling you to perform your duties born of this bodily, the world, born of the body. Because the moment you have taken a human form, you're bound by duties. Whatever the duties might be, you have to perform. So here he taught us how to perform our duties, not focusing on the end result. That is called Nishkama Karma, which is selfless action, where you're not focusing on what is the fruit of the action. Means if I am giving satsang, that doesn't mean that I am attached to the end result. What is the end result? I have to attain God realization. We are not bothered about what the end result is going to be. My duty is to only teach, expound on this scripture, because I've been given that ordained, the command by my Gurudev, which means what? It is a duty that I am performing. This body has certain duties which it has to perform. But am I doing this because I am expecting an end result? Not at all. The words are of not my wisdom alone. This knowledge is not mine. The words are of the Divine Lord's wisdom. He is using this body as an instrument to teach, to expound this knowledge to the world. That is all it is. So where is the question of me being attached to the end result? So that is what Lord Shri Krishna is teaching. So no matter whatever job that you perform, you're doing because it is your duty. And don't be bothered about what the end result has to be. The fruit of the action is never in your hands, and don't be attached to that. See, we all want to succeed. We all want to win in this world. Nobody wants to fail. But that is not in your hands at all. Whether we have to succeed or, fail doesn't rest with us. Our job is to do our duty alone. This morning I was talking to my Guruji something very interesting. I was telling him I'm tired of following up with certain people. I've been, trying to get some connects, and I've been following up. I was very frustrated. I'm like losing patience. My Guruji gave me a very simple answer. He said, you need to have lot of patience. Patience is the only thing that will take you ahead. Why are you bothered? Just do your duty. Don't bother about whether that you're going to get a response or not. Why are you attached to the fruits of the action? If the response has to come, it will come. If it is not meant to come, then you are not going to get that response. But you have to keep trying, keep following up. You need to have a lot of patience, is what he said. Patience is virtue. Why? Because we need to have lot of patience. We have to keep doing our duty, not bothering about how things are going to work. We're not going to be worried about how things are going to span out, all that, right? Because that is never in our hands. That's exactly what Lord Shri Krishna is telling. So how does this Sankhya Yogi perform his duties? He does his duty without expecting the fruit of actions. And he is a sannyasi, a Sankhya Yogi and a yogi who is Karma Yogi both. He is no sannyasi, renouncer, who has merely renounced a sacred fire. So what does that tell us? What is he saying here? He is no sannyasi, renouncer, who has merely renounced the sacred fire. What does merely renounce the sacred fire mean? See, we say, I want to be a renouncer. We say, I want to not be attached. I don't want to work. I don't want to do this. You just cannot renounce for the sake of renouncing. Merely renouncing the sacred fire means what? If you're attached using your mind and just saying, okay, I am renouncing the sacred fire. Sacred fire is in which you burn away all, you offer the oblations. So you're merely renouncing the sacred fire. Just by not doing that, not offering the oblations, you don't become a renouncer. That is what he's saying. What is the real meaning of renunciation? Renunciation is not, in the world physically, but it is your mind which has to renounce. The attachment that it has to every object, the sense object, or to the fruits of the action, or to the action itself. That is what the real renunciation means. It is not about, physical renunciation. See, in the world, we have to eat. Remember in the 3rd and 4th chapter, Lord Shri Krishna taught us something very beautiful. See, everything that you do, whether you're eating, you're, offering the, you're doing your more ablutions, whatever that is, you're offering the sacrifices, everything is the divine Lord himself. And this Sankhya Yogi understands this truth that it is not him, everything is the Brahma alone. Even the act of offering, the ladle, remember that lesson? He's saying that everything is done by the divine Lord alone. So where is the question of I taking the ownership? The I doesn't exist, right? So we are mere an instrument in the hands of the divine Lord. When you understand that, when you become that instrument in the hands of the divine Lord, then you are not going to be attached to the act, the action, or the fruits of action, or the ownership of saying I am the doer as well. You're not going to be attached to any of the things. You have already renounced. So that is why we say Sankhya Yoga means what? Yoga, union with the divine Lord through knowledge. Karma Yoga means your union with the divine Lord through duties, through action. So both is attaining the one goal alone, which is God realization, or union with the divine Lord. Yoga doesn't mean the exercise, the asanas that we perform. Here, yoga means union with the divine Lord. So in anything that you do in this world, you're always, offering that act to the divine Lord, and you're only you're serving that purpose. You're being the best instrument in the hands of the divine Lord. You're the best tool that is there. You are serving merely a purpose of being born as this human body. And that is what you realize. And when you have this understanding, then you're not going to get attached to anything. I hope you understand this important lesson. And then what is saying? The renouncer. It's not merely renouncing, saying, oh, I give up. What is he saying? Who has merely renounced the sacred fire. It's not just that. Even so, he is no yogi who has merely given up all activity. So what is he saying in this case? Of a Sankhya Yogi and a Karma Yogi. Both cannot say that I have given up all activity. I am going to be sitting and doing nothing. That is not what a yogi can say. That is what he's saying here. You have to perform your duties. You have to do everything that is born of this human birth, which you have been given you have come with that duties, whether you like it or not, you have to perform. So why are we resisting and saying, oh, I'm going to give up these duties, I'm going to renounce? No, you can't. The renunciation has to happen in your mind. You have to mentally renounce the world where you're not attached to any of the sense objects. And here he's saying, even so, he is no yogi. You cannot become a yogi who has merely given up all activity. You know, there are a lot of people in this world who wants to just run away. I know of someone, this person doesn't want to work. You know, he doesn't even want to lift his finger to do anything, doesn't want to do at all. But God has been very kind. He born because of his karma. He had inherited certain wealth. Now, you know what? Because you get that wealth, you become even more lazier, right? You don't want to make an effort to earn that living of yours. It's come to you on a platter. And okay, like my Guruji will teach us that, yeah, it is that individual's karma that God has given him that. But if you don't work, you know, or you don't misuse that, then it will sustain. But the moment you become lazier and you do all sorts of things which is not right, what is he saying? He is no yogi who has merely given up all activity, which means you just cannot only sit and enjoy. There are people who say, I don't want to work, but I just want to sit and enjoy. What is this enjoyment? Travel, go with friends, do this, do that. So what are you actually useful to in this world? Are you even contributing anything towards this world, this universe? Are you even working? No, you're not even working for your own living. Why? Because things have come on a platter. So you've taken it for granted. So that kind of an individual is no yogi. And then what happens? Then the universe works its own magic. See, what comes easily also goes away easily. So we need to be very careful. I'm going to pause because there's a flight going. So, he is no yogi who has merely given up all activity. See, hard work is something that we all resist, you know. A human being's nature is that I don't want to work hard. Can I get it all easy? Because this is Kali Yuga. And we're all tamasic in nature. We want everything at the tip of our finger. We don't want to even lift our finger to do anything. Everything happens at the touch of our butt. Just with a finger touch, you know, everything comes at your doorstep. We don't want to make an effort to go out, to buy stuff, to cook. We want it easy. So what do? We order food. We eat everything that is just easily available. So this is the world that have entered. So where is the question of you becoming a yogi? That there's no way out. So what is the Lord teaching Arjuna? He's saying, Arjuna, you must know that what they call sannyasa is no other than yoga. For none becomes a yogi who has not abandoned his sankalpas. What does sankalpas means? The thoughts of the world. Wow. So here Lord Shri Krishna is very, very clear to Arjuna. He is explaining something very beautiful. Arjuna, you must know that what they call sannyasa is no other than yoga. See, sannyasa is also no other than yoga. It's a form of yoga. Doesn't mean you become an ascetic. Okay. As we progress in Bhagavad Gita, as we go ahead, in chapter 7, 8, 9, everything, Lord Shri Krishna is very clear in one thing. See, his path, the way of life determines three aspects. First is you need to have the knowledge, the real knowledge, the right knowledge. Then having that knowledge, you have to perform your duties. Duties is very important. And the next very important aspect is love and devotion. No matter what job you do, you have to do it selflessly and with love and devotion to that task. These three are the way of life. This is how it is determined. But he gives an option. All the path, what is he saying is that every path is leading to that one ultimate goal, which is called God realization. Which path do you want to take is a choice that you have. But if you look at it in a holistic manner, we all have to go through all the path. You need to have knowledge, because without knowledge, how will you know how to perform the right action? How do you know what is correct or wrong? You don't know. That is what he teaches us. So with the knowledge, using that knowledge, you are applying that knowledge in this world to do your duties. And how do you do your duties? With love and devotion alone. So everything is interlinked. You cannot say, I will only follow the path of karma without knowledge, or I will not have devotion. It doesn't work. Everything is interrelated. You need to have all the three things, and that is what Lord Shri Krishna is saying. But he teaches us whichever path you choose is a choice that you have. You can make a choice. Okay, I'm only going to follow the path of Karma Yoga, or I'm only going to follow the path of Jnana Yoga, which is Sankhya Yoga. It is all about knowledge base. So here he's not saying about sannyasa, you become an ascetic. So he's saying something very nice. Arjuna, you must know that what they call, who is they here? He's not saying I am telling this. Somebody else, the wise, the knowers of the truth, or the seers, that's what he will say. They call sannyasa is no other than yoga. His words are very clear. They call it. He's not saying I am telling, it's not me who's telling this, but they are calling sannyasa is no other than yoga. But is that how it is? That's what he's explaining to Arjuna. For none becomes a yogi. No one can become a yogi who has not abandoned the sankalpas, the thoughts of the world. Every morning when you wake up, the first thought that strikes you is the thought which you sleep with. Just before you go to bed, you must be thinking something. Your mind is, even if you're not thinking, your mind is going to keep thinking. It's got some nonsensical thoughts going on. You know what? The first thing when you wake up, even before you realize, your mind has already brought that thought, the chain of thoughts back again. Where you stopped, it actually continues it. Now, till the time you don't abandon the thoughts of the world, how can you become a yogi? It is very difficult. What does yogi mean? Yoga means union with the Divine Lord. When you are in oneness with the Divine Lord, that is when you become a yogi. But when you have thoughts of the world, you're not thinking about the Divine Lord. You're only thinking about, oh God, I have to go for this meeting tomorrow. I have a job. I have to go, take my kids to the school. I have to cook this. What will I do? Oh, this week I have some things to do. There is an event coming up. Oh my God, I have to pay my EMIs and my bills. I hope I get an increment in the salary. God, just be kind to me. Can you give me a better job? These are the kind of thoughts which goes on. Or, you're having all the negative feeling. Oh God, look at my husband. He doesn't even have, he's not even loving to me. What has happened to this man? We're always in those thoughts of the material world. The thoughts of the world is what is driving us. So, till the time you're having the thoughts of the world, how can you attain yoga? So, Lord Shri Krishna is very clear. Okay, and then what is he saying? To the contemplative soul who desires to attain karma yoga. To the contemplative soul who desires to attain karma yoga, that is selfless action, is said to be the means. So he's saying is said to be the means. What does that mean? See, we already discussed. So somebody who's contemplative, he's contemplating on the knowledge imparted. Now to that soul who desires to attain karma yoga, means what? Who wants to attain union through karma, that is to performing the duties. Selfless action, which means you cannot get attached saying, you can't have the sense of doership. I did this, I am the greatest thing. There is nobody in this world who can cook like me. I am the great leader, the world renowned leader. There is no other leader like me. The pride, arrogance that comes in, I. The ego of I is so strong. That ego, that pride, I am the greatest, I am the mightiest, I am the one, I am the doer. That sense of doership is something that you cannot have at all. So selfless action is said to be the means. What is the means for this being? It's only by selfless action. You cannot be attached. You cannot take ownership. You can't do any of those things. You have to be very, very, very focused. And till the time you are not focused, how will you attain that state? You can't. That yoga is next to impossible. Please understand. Let us be very clear, okay? It is not going to happen at all. And worst part is we are always focused on the end result. What is that I am going to get when I do this action? What is that I'm going to achieve? We all have a goal in our life. Okay, today, see, when you're working, you start with some numbers. Like, today I am earning so much. As you grow along, you aspire to earn more and more and more. That keeps increasing. So you are only motivated with the end result. Your motivation is, I am going to get something when I do this. So your action is a motivated action, where it is selfless action. Selfless means you're just doing and you're forgetting about it. Even when we do anything for others, we cannot take ownership of this. Look, I gave him. Who is this I who can give? See, like my Guruji will tell, I use people like, you all in this world to serve my purpose. You think you are the doer. You are taking that ownership. So it's whose ahankara it is. It is that individual I, that I am the doer. So that cannot happen. So if you think like that, then you cannot achieve that yoga. That is the you can't achieve the union through karma yoga. It's not going to happen. So he's saying, and for the same man, when he is established in yoga, absence of all sankalpas, that is thoughts of the world, is said to be the way to blessedness. And for the same man, when he is established in yoga, absence of all sankalpas, that is the thoughts of the world, is said to be the way to blessedness. To the contemplative soul who desires to attain karma yoga, selfless action is said to be the means. And for the same man, Hello.
Hi Rajeshri.
Hi Chandan.
Hi, I'm sorry. Are you good time?
Can I call you at 11:30 if you don't mind?
11:30?
Yeah.
All right. Can I set up a call? Quick call at 11:30?
Yes, you can.
11:30 to 12?
Yes, you can.
Okay. No problem. ठीक है राजेश. Thank you. समझ गया सर. मैं आज के लिए नहीं था.
Sorry about that. To the contemplative soul who desires to attain karma yoga, selfless action is said to be the means. For the same man, when he is established in yoga, absence of all sankalpas, that is thoughts of the world, is said to be the way to blessedness. See, Lord Shri Krishna, let me explain, in a very simple manner. He is also saying the same thing in different ways to Arjuna, so that Arjuna can understand. What is he saying? See, if you understand through contemplative, knowledge has been imparted. So what do? We need to do Shravan, Manan and Nididhyasana. Which means first you listen, then you contemplate, then you meditate on the knowledge, whatever that you have understood, the knowledge which has been imparted. The next thing that happens is you need to apply that knowledge. So what comes into play is the karma, that is you're performing action. But what kind of action? Selfless action is what you have to perform. Now that is said to be the means. And then what is that next he's saying? For the same individual, when he is established in yoga. So for the same individual, so whoever is following this path where you have contemplated on the knowledge, you're meditated, and then you're performing the selfless action, to that individual, what is happening to you? That is when you will be established in yoga. It is a means of attaining union with the Divine Lord. That is what is saying. And then what should he also attain is absence of all sankalpas, that is thoughts of the world, is said to be the way to blessedness. Now we discussed enough at length the absence of sankalpa, all sankalpas, that is thoughts of the world. Can you ever imagine without having any thoughts in your mind just being lost in that union, in the Divine Lord? He's saying is the way to blessedness. Have you ever even achieved for a moment? No, your mind doesn't rest except when it's in a deep sleep state. That is the only time you're in that oneness. And this very beautiful scripture which describes these three states, the waking state, the deep sleep, and the dream state. This is called Tripura Rahasyam. Someday we'll do this scripture. Very beautifully explained. And that time, when you're in the deep sleep, is when you go to Tripura. You're in oneness with the divine Lord. Same here is saying, it's the way to blessedness. When you stop all the thoughts of the world, your mind just calm, it's peaceful, it is, it's thinking nothing, there are no thoughts at all. Have you ever attained this state, even for a moment? It's not possible because we don't strive, we don't practice. You know why? The mind has its own mind and a nature also, and the nature is that it is going to keep creating these thoughts dime a dozen, from one to the other subject. It is going on endlessly throughout the day. It is keeping you very busy. You're not even able to focus, and that is why my Guruji will teach us, if you're taking a job, whatever the action that you're doing, if you're performing any job, whether it is as simple as cooking, you have to have that ekagrata, that oneness with that task. And that is what it's called single pointed devotion. How do you attain that union? It is through, there is a method. These are the practices which we have to do. And until we don't practice continuously on a daily basis, we cannot achieve the blessedness. Is said to be the way to blessedness. That is never going to be able to, that we are not going to be able to achieve in our life. Why? Because we are not focused. We are not established in that, oneness with the divine Lord, because of the thoughts that we have. A dime a dozen thought. Like I said, we're always thinking about, what is going to happen to my future? What's going to be the case? Oh, Corona has come now. What is going to happen? I can't travel. Oh God, when will I get the job? We are all fearful. We are fearing what's going to be our future. Like, why? Like Lord Shri Krishna has taught in the last chapter, the most important thing that you have to overcome is desire and fear, lust and anger. The three things he said which we have to overcome is desire, lust and anger. Fear as well. Why do you fear? Fear is another biggest driving factor in the human beings. We don't have faith that the Lord will, make everything perfect in our world. We just have to have the trust in Him and keep doing our job. We don't have that. We fear our life. Even the basic thing, if you see the old people, they fear death. Why should you fear death? You understood that when you're born, the one thing which is very sure is death is very certain. My Guruji had posted recently some very beautiful thing. Death, suffering and misery. Three things are certain in our life. What is the uncertainty of life is happiness, love, money. All these are uncertainties of life. But we hope that someday these things will happen in our life. People go after seeking peace. Peace is how you, live. Peace is, if you accept your life the way it is right now, you will be very happy with yourself. And the word is called contented. Contentment is what you have to achieve. And when you feel contented with your life, peace will automatically come to you. But when you think that you want something, which is again the root cause of all our miseries, is desire. Why? Because we are going after some things. And the moment you run after certain things, you're constantly in that miserable state. Why? Because till the time you don't achieve that, you're going to suffer. So suffering is part of your life. So where is the question of contentment or the peacefulness that we are looking at? It's never going to be there. So Lord Shri Krishna is teaching something very nice here. He's saying, till the time you don't give up the sankalpas of the material world, the thoughts of the material world, there is no way you can achieve blessedness. So then what is his thing? He's saying, when a man ceases to have any attachment for the objects of senses and for actions, and has renounced all sankalpas, that is thoughts of the world, he is said to have attained yoga. So when do you think you will ever achieve this state? When a man ceases to have any attachment for the objects of senses, sense objects, and for actions. Again, I said, if the doership, the moment you get attached to the sense objects. So what are the sense objects? It could be as simple as I want to eat gulab jamun. I love gulab jamun. The moment you see a gulab jamun, you say, oh, I want to eat it. It's an attachment. My mother is an attachment, father is an attachment, husband, wife, brother, sister, children. These are attachments. Job, you're attached so much. Why should you be attached? See, in this world, you need to understand something. The moment you understand the truth of life, what is life all about? You are not going to get attached to anything. You just know that you are here to serve a purpose. You focus on that and go after attaining the highest goal, which is about God realization. Now, how do you attain that yoga? Again, that God realization. He's saying very simply, it is very easy. First is you have to give up the attachment to all the sense objects. And then for actions. Actions, oh look, I did this, I am taking care of my parents, I am giving money, I am the one who's providing. Who is this I? You take ownership of all your actions. So forget about God realization, you're going to be bound. You know why? You've already guaranteed yourself many lifetimes of birth and death, births, rebirth. Why? Because you took ownership of your action. I am providing. Now don't you think that has to be repaid to you? So what have you committed? Karma, sin. See, karma can be good karma or bad karma. At the end of the day, you have committed actions. So that attachment is what will make you commit that sin. Means you have taken the ownership. I did this. Doesn't mean that then God says, okay, fine, you will get repaid. Which means you have to be born again as that individual in that life, and that the other person who you were giving, you have to now get repaid back. So where is the question of you attaining the yoga? It doesn't happen at all. And then has renounced all the thoughts of the material world. Renunciation is very important. Can you not renounce the thoughts of the world? Why are we always living in that worldly thoughts? We either live in that bitterness. 99% of the time people live in the bitterness. That 1% is when they feel nice about everything. It's a momentary thing. But what is it you need to be thinking all the time about? The Divine Lord. And then he said to have attained yoga only when you give up. When a man ceases to have any attachment to the sense objects and for action and you have renounced the sankalpas, the thoughts of the material world. He is said to have attained yoga, that is union with the Divine Lord. But though these three things are very simple to achieve, yet we don't. Why? Because we don't practice. Practice is what is very important. Sadhana. Sadhana. How do you perform the sadhana? Every single day you have to remind yourself. You have to, my Guruji will teach us that we have to always be observing our mind, ourself. It's like a witness, you don't have to go into it or dwell into it. You just need to keep a watch on your mind so that it doesn't, take you far away. It's very easy to get lost in the mind. It's very easy. And that is why you should not allow your mind to dwell on the sense objects. See, because the moment, how is the attachment coming in? When the senses come in contact with the sense objects, the mind comes into play. So what does the mind does? The mind's nature is to dwell on those sense objects. When it dwells, what happens? Attachment happens. From attachment springs up desires. So the way to cut this is from stopping your mind from dwelling on that sense objects. How do you do? Simple as that. See, say assuming you got a thought, oh God, today is my dad's birthday, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that, I want to celebrate it like this. You started thinking and planning too many things. It's dwelling. And it's created an imagery. Imagination we say, or it's showing you some images how that celebration has to happen. Now that is called the thoughts of that is called a sankalpa. You're creating a sankalpa. But why should it be like that? You're not attached. You are not even creating an imaginations, or there are no thoughts. You just know it's a birthday. You just have to celebrate it. So what do? You buy a cake, just go there and offer it. But you're not expecting how things has to happen. Why bother? Why are you attached to it? Let the universe work its magic. Why should you have those imaginations? See, the imaginations has to be there only if you want to attain some end result. So we put the thought in the universe. That is something you have to cut off, and then surrender, offer it to the divine Lord. Let the day be the way you wish it to be. That's it. So your mind is then not going to dwell on the sense object. It's very easy. Again, let me give another example. Imagine you aspire, your mind just says, I want to eat, today I want to eat pav bhaji or ice cream I want to eat. So it's constantly dwelling on that ice cream. Your mouth is watering. What has already created that thought, that sankalpa? I want to eat this. My mind is already dwelling in that ice cream. You understand the taste, you're enjoying already. So till the time you don't go and buy and eat, that remains as a desire. Simply because that attachment came into existence. But if you had no attachment, you just said, you're not even going to bother about that ice cream, then it's not going to affect you. But the moment you create that attachment because of letting your mind dwell on that object, then that desire keeps springing upon. It springs upon all the time. And that causes misery to you. So which takes you away from achieving that goal of having that union with the divine Lord, which is what yoga is all about. And so what is the Lord saying here? This is again a very, very important verse. One should lift oneself by one's own efforts and should not degrade oneself. For one's own self is one's friend and one's own self is one's enemy. Oh my God, we have to underline this verse because this is exactly what we go through. We don't understand what is good for us. We always think that whatever our mind is telling us is what we have to do. No, that's not the truth. One should lift oneself by one's own effort. How do you attain this yoga? See, in the earlier verse, Lord taught three important things which we have to stop. One is to have any attachment from the sense objects and for the actions. And the third is we have to renounce all the thoughts of the world. When you have these three things, you will be able to very easily attain the yoga, which is union with the divine Lord. But how will you do it? One should lift. What is he saying? Arjuna, lift your bow and arrow and shoot. But Arjuna is lost in his mind space. He's saying he's refusing to fight because he's emotionally upset. He's emotionally unstable. He's saying, I don't want to kill. So who's not letting him do that? It is his mind. So how should Arjuna now do? One should lift oneself by one's own efforts and should not degrade oneself. See, we either praise ourselves or we think we are the martyr, I'm the worst, I'm the bad person, I'm useless. That's what it does. Either your mind thinks no end of yourself, it makes you feel you're the ultimate thing, or it will put you down and make you become a martyr. So these two things can happen, and that is called inflated ego and deflated ego. But what is the Lord teaching Arjuna here? We should, we are our own best friend and our own worst enemy. And one should lift oneself by one's own self-effort. Self-effort, your own effort. Only you can lift yourself. I can teach these words like I'm also learning equally, right? This lesson is for you and me because right now I'm expounding and you're listening. So we both are learning together. And this is the knowledge which the divine Lord is imparting to us. But if I don't put effort myself, if I don't put my self-effort, if I don't practice, if I don't do my sadhana, how am I going to ever attain the yoga? How am I going to be the best instruments in the hands of the divine Lord? How will I perform my duties to the highest of my God-given abilities? I'm not going to. I will be a very below average, mediocre, human being, and then will die one day without even attaining anything, without achieving any beautiful goal of my life. And this human birth would become a waste. Because only through human body can you realize God. And that opportunity itself I have lost. So what is he saying? One should lift oneself by one's own self-effort and should not degrade oneself. We should never degrade ourselves because that self is the divine self within us. For one's own self is one's friend, and one's own self is one's enemy. We are our own best friend and our worst enemy as well. So who do you want to be? Why don't you be the best friend of yours? Why don't you rise, do things, practice, strive hard, using this knowledge, win in this world rather than becoming your own worst enemy? Don't dwell in the mind. The mind is always going to instigate you against the divine Lord. It is never going to allow you to do your duties or make you perform those tasks. It is going to tell you you're incapable. It's going to tell you, oh, you know what, today you're sick, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you don't have the knowledge. But have that faith, you can do. So what is the Lord saying? Don't degrade yourself. Don't allow your mind to degrade yourself. Why should you degrade yourself? You should not. Have that faith that the divine self is within me. So what is that I can't do in this world? Do you think it's impossible for you to achieve that yoga? Of course not. You can, if you believe. But you have to practice. He's not saying that it can just come easily. What did he teach to Arjuna in chapter 2? He said something very nice. Arjuna, strive to practice the yoga of equanimity. You be self-control. So who has to do? Arjuna has to do. You and me have to do this. Without the sadhana, we can't achieve anything. So the Lord is teaching us that we are the only one who can lift ourselves, rise high above to attain that yoga of equanimity, or the yoga that is union with the divine Lord. No matter what you wish to achieve, only you can do it in this world. There is nobody who can do this for you. So you are your own best friend. One's own self, that is your own self, is your best friend, and your own self is your worst enemy. So the choice of who do you want to be rests with you alone. So let the divine self, give the charge to the divine self within you, and believe in yourself that you're capable of achieving anything that you aspire to do in this world. So never degrade yourself, never feel small about anything. Evolve. We will, many a time we do fail, we might fall, but lift yourself. Lift yourself and rise above. That is what he's teaching. You might today say that I can't do this, but you are capable. The Lord is teaching Arjuna, lift the bow and arrow and fight. You are capable, Arjuna. I am that Lord within you. I am the very self within you. What makes you think you can't win the battle? Forget about winning. What makes you think that you can't fight? Of course you can fight. You can do anything you wish to in this world, because that is the self that is there within you. All the power is within us. So we have to use that self-effort, the God-given abilities to rise above. So if we are our own best friend, right? Nobody else can do it for us. I can't say somebody can do it for me. Till the time I don't walk the path, walk the journey, I can't achieve anything in this world. So that's why it says it's the way to blessedness is only it's possible for you to achieve only by walking that path, only through self-effort, not by just saying, I want to achieve, I can do this, I want to do this. Everybody wants, everybody tries, but there is only one being who is able to win that, who is able to actually put their heart and soul in achieving it. And many people give up. So don't give up. Giving up is not the answer. It is about rising above and going ahead and ahead and ahead, and don't bother about the outcomes. What has to be will be. So with that, we will stop here and we'll continue from the next verse, the next satsang. Thank you for joining the Bhagavad Gita Satsang, the way of life as described by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna. Om Shri Mahaganapate Namaha. Om Shri Gurudev Datta. Om Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Digambara Digambara Shripad Vallabha Digambara. Om Shri Krishna Guru Nathanataya Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Devi Durgaya Namaha. Om Shri Krishna Arpanam Namastu. Krishnam Vande Jagadguru.